Well, it's just turned 2 o'clock. It's Friday, so let's get this meeting rolling. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our launch event for the early adopters of the Carbon Database Initiative. Thanks everybody for jumping onto the call so early. Just a reminder, we are recording the session today, as there's quite a few people who would like to come along who've told us that they couldn't attend for various reasons. I think there's things like Thanksgiving and Black Friday going on. But we'll try and make this a Green Friday and do something that will have a positive impact on the environment today. So the recording will also be available for everybody who's on the call. So we'll send a link out to that afterwards, either later today or very early next week. So you have a copy of that, so you don't need to make copious notes. So let's get the show rolling. For those that may not be familiar, I'm John Buckley. I'm the Managing Director and co-founder of Carbon Footprint. So for me and for the company, the journey actually started almost 2 decades ago now, believe it or not. So it all came from the fact that we wanted to try and do something positive to help with climate change. We became more and more aware that climate change was going to become a bigger issue all the way back then, almost 20 years ago. So I wanted to do something that could go a little bit beyond just changing my light bulbs to low energy light bulbs. So the idea I had was that we'd put a carbon calculator onto the internet, and it all started way back then with us putting an online carbon calculator onto the internet for people to use. And very soon afterwards, we had hundreds of thousands of people that were using the web page, the website, and using the carbon calculators. And now the carbon calculators that we've put up there that are free to use, used by millions of people around the world and businesses too. I'm sure some of you may well have used the free business version on our website. So like I say, we did this because we were concerned about the climate change and we wanted to do a little bit more than just the basic, let's see what we can do to reduce our carbon emissions. It really wasn't an intention for us to build a business at the time. It was really to help people understand and reduce their impact on climate change. But over time, the businesses have merged, and we're now where we are today, which is great. So we've got lots of customers that are doing some really great stuff in terms of reducing their carbon impacts. So here we are. Yes, with CaDI, we'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. The other things, this also comes on the back of other initiatives that we've done in the past. Some of you may be aware that we have a database for international electricity factors that we've put together. It covers all countries in the world. And it's once again, it's another thing that's free to download on our website. There were other databases available that were paid for, but what we wanted to do was remove those barriers to entry. So for us, it's all about removing barriers for companies to get on and report their carbon emissions now. Some of you will be aware as well that we've done other sort of big initiatives. During the COVID lockdown, we started the Freedom Flight Prize. Some of you guys will be sponsors of that. This is a prize fund for the first truly zero carbon emission passenger aircraft that can fly across the Atlantic from London to New York. And it needs to be an aircraft that can take over at least 100 passengers. I'm pleased to say that we now have over 300 corporate sponsors for this initiative. So thanks to everybody who is sponsoring, and we're always looking for more people who want to get involved. So something else that you can get involved in. In terms of what we do here, we're coordinating that. We don't take any money from the sponsorship. That all goes into the prize fund. So once again, it's an initiative that we're running effectively for free. So that brings us on to what can we do next. So the next thing we thought about was to look at how we can help companies report their carbon emissions and disclose what they're already doing. And hence we're launching CaDI, the Carbon Database Initiative. So our aim is here to make it easy for organizations to report what their carbon emissions are and disclose those publicly. I'm sure some of you will be aware there are other systems out there that you can use to do this as well. But our feeling is that a lot of these are slightly over complex, and they also come with a hefty price tag as well. So CaDI here is our free to use version that we believe is much simpler to use and easy for companies to sort of get involved and start disclosing. So today our goal is to provide you with a quick overview of the CaDI system and encourage you to register and explore and then disclose your own data on it as an early adopter. So this is an early adopters launch event. We're planning on doing an official launch, just so you're aware, in January. So you've now got an opportunity to get on board, put your own data into the system and be part of the system to promote your company for when we do the official launch in January. I think that's probably enough from me. Before I hand over to some of my colleagues, I just wanted to say, if you've got any questions, put them in the meeting chat, which you can get on the right-hand side of the screen. Type them in there, and what we'll do is we'll try our best to address those either during this meeting or towards the end of it. But yeah, like I say, that's probably enough from me at the moment. And what I'll do is, without further ado, I'll pass the baton over to Zoe Ridge and Joel Fernandez, two of our senior consultants at Carbon Footprint, who can show you the system.
Thanks very much, John. Following on there from what John has just said, the motivation behind CaDI is that we feel that society has a right to access this public, freely available information on greenhouse gas emissions disclosures for various companies. Really, this is essential if we want to truly commit to addressing the climate crisis. Currently, as many of you will probably be familiar with, access to this type of data is normally either quite inconsistent in its content or costly to access. This obviously puts restrictions up for businesses, especially those that are smaller, and puts them at a disadvantage for being able to access this type of information. Even those that can afford to access these databases tend to be less likely to do so when it's not readily available for you to get access to. So CaDI is aiming to be a global, free to use, free to disclose database for companies reporting their carbon footprints, net zero commitments, and carbon neutral claims. The aim is firstly to simplify greenhouse gas emission related disclosures and present these in a consistent way across the board, company to company. We want to promote transparency among businesses as well. So we really encourage you to consider publishing your data, putting that out in the public domain. Obviously, everyone's on their own sustainability journey, so there really should be nothing to hide in terms of disclosing your greenhouse gas emissions and targets. And being able to demonstrate accountability for this by publishing that will be something that your clients, investors, stakeholders will definitely value. We aim to provide a trustworthy source for companies to use to benchmark their greenhouse gas emissions against other companies. And of course, we want to look at tackling the concern around greenwashing and green hushing. So greenwashing, as I'm sure many of you know, will be making people believe that the company is doing more to protect the environment than it really is. Green hushing is actually the practice of avoiding or downplaying your environmental impact, sustainability goals, etc., for fear of backlash or criticism. So we really want to empower companies to be able to disclose this information and have the confidence to do that. Obviously, greenwashing and green hushing are concerning because they have the potential to delay climate action. So as you can see up on the screen here, we've got the homepage for the CaDI database. Joel, shall we navigate over to showing everyone the carbon disclosure side of things?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is the homepage that you will see when you search for the website, which basically just has a place where you can search for companies that are on the database already. So this is only the publicly disclosed companies that are there, and obviously all the terms and conditions and cookie policies that you have to have. But once you're on this website, then you can click over to search for carbon disclosures. So this is where you can more visibly see data which has been published. So this has the emissions that have been posted by different companies. At the moment, there's not a lot on here. We've actually frozen the publications until January, as John was saying earlier. The reason for this is to just encourage more people to get involved and sign up quite early on. So at the moment, what I've put on here is just a few companies so that you can see we've put ourselves on here. There's a few disclosures that we've put on there just for good measure, and so that you can see that we're leading from the front, so to speak. but I've also put some of the FTSE 100 companies on just so that there's something to look at. So when you go onto this page, you can then click further into more details of a carbon disclosure by hitting the details button, and this will show you everything that's been published about that particular disclosure. So Zoe, would you like to go through some of what's on here?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Joel. So in terms of the data availability in the platform, obviously you've got the breakdown of your greenhouse gas emissions for the company by the different scopes and location and market-based emissions if you're reporting under the greenhouse gas protocol. There's also a couple of intensity metrics as well. So this is really beneficial if you're looking to benchmark your company against other businesses, and you can jump into any business that's published its data and have a look at the details tab to see this sort of information. Further down, you can also see which of the Scope 3 categories have been included in their published results. So this is really helpful when you're trying to understand and navigate the complex world of Scope 3. You can see what's not applicable to this particular business versus what they've assessed and anything that they've excluded. So that's really beneficial when you're trying to compare your results to other businesses as well. If you go further up the page there, Joel, we also have contained the information obviously on the reporting period that's been published and whether or not this has been verified by carbon footprint. So that just adds some credibility as well to the data that you're seeing in the platform by showing that it has had third-party assurance or not. Obviously, a lot of the users in this early stage are going to be our clients, so that will be a yes for most of you or all of you. But anyone who is not a client of Carbon Footprint is, of course, very welcome to use the database. And we would encourage them also to consider getting their emissions verified, again, to build on the credibility of what's being published.
It's probably worth noting that because all we're publishing here is numbers, there's no sense of greenwashing here, because all you're sharing is data which we know is correct. There's no opinions, there's no politics, it's just the numbers, and that's I think a key thing here. Furthermore, from this, that we have tracking reports. So this will show you the published footprints over time. So that's, yeah, which is obviously something that you'd quite like to be able to see if you're looking at a particular company. You will also be able to see any particular reduction goals which have been set by the company if they've put those details in their system. But what we want to show you now is what you will be able to do and what we want you to do after having joined us in this meeting. And so that would be to go into your carbon disclosure. So to do this, yeah, you just click your carbon disclosure login. This will take you to a page that looks like this, and we will want you to hit the sign up button to make an account. This won't immediately allow you to log in. The reason for that is we want to be able to moderate the people that are going onto the website. We don't want anyone to just be able to maliciously upload carbon disclosures for companies that they don't like, for instance. So we've got a bit of control there to stop that from happening. Right. Now I'm going to just log in on an account that I made earlier. So I will just quickly do that so that we can demonstrate the next parts. This is when it doesn't let me log in. And it hasn't let me log in. Hang on a second. I know exactly what this is doing. It's because I'm in an incognito window and I have cookies turned off. So let's quickly do that. There we go. Hang on, let me just type that in manually. There we go. Okay, right. So this is what it will look like when you log in. As you can see, there's nothing on there at the moment. And the reason for that is because we haven't put anything on yet. This might be different for some of you. If you've already had a verification or an appraisal with us, we will take the liberty to transfer your data across from our system onto this system for you. This doesn't mean it will be published. There's a section here that says carbon disclosures unverified, not yet published, and there's a section that says carbon disclosures verified, not yet published. If you have appraisals and verifications with us, the verified one is the place where it will go to. So what do we have to do first? We have to make a company. So we'll add a company. That's really straightforward to do. You click that button. So I'm going to quickly copy some details in. So here's a company I made earlier, Publishing, Construction, Aviation and Health Limited, which I just thought, let's cover all bases, as this website is for everyone. You can add your logo in. Here's one I made earlier again. And the reason we put your company number in is mainly on our end. It just allows you to have a number which is completely different to everyone else's and differentiates you from everyone else. If you are unsure about that, you can just put 0 and we will sort something out on our end. You will also be able to put your website in, so that will allow you to get a little bit of free publicity out of it as well. At the bottom, we have the short-term, mid-term and long-term targets. If you don't know these yet and haven't run a target setting assessment on your business, then you might not be able to fill this out yet, but that's absolutely fine. You don't have to do that. You can hit submit. Right, brilliant. Now, if we go back to your carbon disclosure login, you should have a company here, and you will be able to add a new carbon disclosure. So this is what we want you to do next. So here you'll be able to enter a name for your disclosure. So this might be, here's one I made earlier. 2022 footprint, except I can't spell. Right, cool. And you'll be able to set the reporting periods. That's the 12-month period that your assessment ran from and to. So that could be the 1st of January to the 31st of December 2022. You can select your currency. So this is for some information which we're gathering, which isn't necessarily going to be published. It's more for statistics and your own benefit too. But also we're gathering things like market capitalization and total number of shares. The reason for this is because there's currently a drive towards investment footprint measuring, and so this will effectively allow us to work out a way of assessing people's investment footprints. Obviously, if you're not a public limited company, this is completely irrelevant to you. You don't have to fill that in, and that's fine. Employee count. This is the one intensity metric which we are kind of pushing to be published publicly. The reason for that is employee count is publicly available already. Every company has to disclose it in their annual reports or accounts. So that's already public knowledge. It just allows you to sort of compare your emissions with other businesses there. Right. Further down the page, we then have your scope 1, scope 2, location-based, market-based, and so on and so forth, capturing the data which we were displaying on the previous page. It has some explanations of what is included within each GHG protocol category, for instance, just in case you are unsure. And each category will allow you to select fully assessed, partially assessed, not assessed, or not applicable. So this will cover all bases when you're looking at this here. If you're not sure, you can feel free to contact us, and any one of us will be able to help you answer these questions. And obviously, when it comes to verification, you'll also be able to look into. Well, we'll also look into that there and check that things are correct. And last but not least, we have a box at the bottom for offsetting. So if you have offset your footprint, you'll be able to specify the number of tons you've offset there. Cool. Zoe, do you have anything to add about this page?
Thanks, Joel. No, I think you've shown that brilliantly. I think the nice thing about the platform is its simplicity. So hopefully you'll all agree it's relatively straightforward to be able to add the information, prompting you as well with some points and guidance on what we're looking for in the cell above. So adding your data in should be a relatively straightforward process. And as Joel mentioned, for those that do consultancy-based assessments with us, we'd take the liberty of doing that on your behalf as well. And all that information then is stored in the platform, in the database on the back end. In terms of publication at this stage, obviously none of this is publicly available, and you have full autonomy over being able to make the decision to put that in the public domain. So in just a moment, once Joel has finished marking up the cells here, he can show you what that will look like ahead of that going public, so you can see how that would present itself to you before you put that out publicly.
Okie dokie. Yeah. So once you've entered your data, it will appear here, and it will say unverified, not published yet. So you'll be able to view the details of what you've just input. So that will show it just like this, which, as you can tell, is exactly how it was in the search carbon disclosures section. And yeah, so it has all the same details there, just in the same format as before. You'll also be able to edit your footprint. When it's unverified and not yet published, you'll be able to edit everything. When it's verified but not yet published, there's only a small number of items you'll be able to edit. So that will be things like your intensity metric items, so your number of employees, your market capitalization, all that kind of information. When we verify a footprint, we're mainly looking at the emissions rather than those items. So you might not have fully filled that in, or it might not be information which you were able to disclose yet. I know that some public limited companies can't disclose their turnover, for instance, until their annual report is out. So that's that. Anyway, what we really want you to do is to publish your data. So to do that, you'll hit this publish button. That will take you to this page here, which at the top has a little disclaimer, which basically says you are the right person to be doing this. You have the authority to publish your data. It just disclaims us for any damages or anything, not that there will be any. And yeah, basically says that you agree that if you have done it maliciously, your information will be shared with the company in question. You will also give us permission to contact you about verification, which yeah, obviously we want to make sure that everyone going onto the website is publishing accurate information. So that's our method of checking that. So if you scroll down this page, you'll see that everything on this page is what will be published, exactly how it will be published there. And if you have any problems with what information is on here, then you can go back and edit that. Zoe, do you have anything to add on this?
Thanks, Joel. I think so. Again, the nice thing about having this information published is also being able to use that to share the information with your suppliers, and it prevents barriers to being able to complete assessments, like, for example, investment footprints down the line. So being able to share this information once you've published it as well is such a benefit, because a lot of businesses nowadays are being asked to provide this up and down their supply chain. We're also hoping to facilitate hosting this information on your own website, so there'll be more to come on this as well over time. But in terms of the database as a whole, I think we've given you a good overview there of what that looks like in terms of your carbon disclosure login side and also the carbon disclosures of other businesses. As you've seen, the platform at this point is in its infancy, so this gives you, as the early adopters attending today, the opportunity to really be a leading example and advocate for transparency in your own sectors by publishing your information here. The vision is really to have millions of users globally, like we do with our carbon calculators, like John mentioned earlier on today. And the other thing to mention is that, of course, because this is an early adopters event, what we really welcome is any feedback on the platform. So we're really interested to hear your thoughts. If there's anything that you'd like to see that isn't on there currently, any metrics you think would be useful to track against, then of course we really encourage you to reach out and let us know your suggestions, and we'll take those into consideration. Unless you've got anything to add there, Joel, I think it's probably time to hand back over to John and have just a little bit of time there for any questions as well.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for showing us the CaDI system, Joel and Zoe. That's amazing. I do note that we've got a couple of questions that have been put in the chat, so let's see if we can answer those. Martin's put up a message to say, I've just published ours, but it doesn't include the offset tons of CO2 yet. How does that get added? Joel, that's probably one for you, isn't it?
As you've hit publish, you won't be able to do it yourself, but I will be able to go and do that. I can definitely help you there. Yeah, if you I'll contact you after this.
Good stuff. Thank you for that. There's a question from an unknown user. That's exciting. How about adding if net zero commitment or not, yes or no, and by when? So do one of you want to say that? If not, I think that's a great suggestion. What we're looking for here is suggestions that people can give that you'd like to see on the platform. So things like that we'll take on board. We do have the target setting bit, which shows how much we're trying to reduce, how much you're trying to reduce carbon emissions by certain dates. But yeah, we can certainly add that net zero target commitment. That's a great idea. Thank you, whoever that unknown user is. Charlotte has put up a question. When you mention benchmarking, how is this achieved without having to go into individual corporate records, e.g. sector-wide? Joel, that's probably a good one for you, actually.
So another thing which we have started to add, I'll see if I can edit the company actually and see if it is in there. Another thing that we've added is your company sectors. So at the moment, this doesn't do anything because there's not enough information on there to sort of warrant it. But one of the things that we want to do is allow businesses to compare themselves with other businesses in their sector. So what we've got here is the SIC categories, which go A to U, and every business is in at least one of these. So you might be in the health sector, for instance. You'll also have SIC codes. So every business has SIC codes allocated to them. If you go on the company's house website, you can see what these are. And if those have changed, then you might find more suitable ones. But what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to select which SIC codes are relevant to you. The reason we've gone for both SIC categories and SIC codes is because we reckon that there will be some SIC codes which have an awful lot of businesses within them, but other ones which might not. So as a result, the SIC categories will allow you to compare with other businesses if you happen to be in a less well adopted SIC code. But at the moment, we just need you to sort of put this information in so that we have it available. Because until we've got enough data there, you're not going to be able to compare with anyone anyway. So, it's not quite there yet, but it's something we're working on.
Thanks for that, Joel. That's really good. I don't think we've got any more questions actually. So if anybody else got a question, feel free to type them in. But we are almost at the end of the half an hour session that we did book for this, which is actually absolutely perfect timing. It's almost as if it was planned. So that's great. So yeah, so the next steps really is for you to have a little play with the system and see if you can upload some of your own data. If you need any support, then feel free to reach out with us. I'll just share my screen again, and I can put up there, our contact details. So if you need any support, yes, reach out to us with those contact details, and we're more than happy to support you. Like we said right at the beginning, and we mentioned it a couple of times during the walkthrough, that we are planning to do an official launch in January. So this is really a chance for everybody on this call and others that we're going to invite to be early adopters, to sort of get their data listed and be part of the system for when it launches. So yeah, I think that's all we've got time for. It's now 2:30, which is when we plan to finish. So we'll close the meeting there. Thank you very much for everybody who's joined and listened. I hope it was useful for you. If you do have any more questions, do feel free to reach out to us. You can use that contact details on the system there, support@carbndi.com, or if you're already a carbon footprint customer, then reach out to your account manager and they can help you as well. So yeah, thank you very much, and we'll stop the recording there.